What up? It is Alex. We are doing Running by DVS1 today. This one's pretty cool. We're gonna have a special. We're gonna do Window Licker soon, also this week. So get ready. But we're gonna do some more techno for today. So this is a cool one. And by the way, subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't yet, or at least give it a look. Consider it. That'd be really appreciated. We've got over 60 breakdowns now that are out. If you subscribe to Patreon, you get a bunch of field recording samples. I mean, you can already download them on the YouTube channel, but you can just download them all with like one simple click. And you also can get track feedback and private lessons. So it'd just really be dope. Really appreciate it. And yeah, so give it a thought. Go check that out. And if you want this project file, email me. But okay, so this track, very simple in some ways. We have a 4 on the floor kick, some toms, a lead, lead 1, and then lead 2. Let's just listen to this 4-bar loop real quick, which is going to be the bread and butter of this entire track. Cool. And yeah, so when I say this is going to be the bread and butter of the entire track, that's because this is going to play, these two things are going to play for almost the whole part. The lead 2 is going to drop out at some point, but basically you're going to get modulation of mostly lead 2, and then we're just going to get a very simple offbeat that also modulates. That's when it turns orange, a 16th note hat, which modulates sometimes like when it turns pink, and then a clap that happens once in a while. So very few elements at hand, but we're getting a lot of variety through modulating these elements. And yeah, and I want to say that, like, just because of how, basically just because of how these two leads interact with each other, it does seem like it's an easy way to like get hypnotic with it, but we'll talk about that more. So let's just listen to this track for a bit. It starts off in a funky way, like it just starts right off the bat, kind of in the middle of the loop. So again, this is a 4-bar loop, and the very beginning of the track, see if I pull it, it stops here. It just starts like mid-loop. Okay, so what I could do here, see this is the 4-bar loop. If I drag this over here and then do this, it's kind of like now I can drag it over here. We're basically just starting, like I said, in the middle of the main loop, which is kind of interesting. Oftentimes tracks, especially a lot of these techno tracks, just give you like that clean kick in the sub, or just a clean kick and a clap, or just, you know, some simple thing that's already lined up perfectly. Versus this just starts, everything's kind of going. We're in the middle of a loop, so if you're DJing this, you know, just be aware of that. So okay, so now we're gonna keep going, and let's just listen for a while, and we'll talk when some things happen. If you're wondering what this lead is, because it can be hard to hear at first, it's just going boop 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 boop. You'll hear it as it opens up. Like right there. And this is just I know I'm pausing it already, but that's because I feel like this melody is so like beneath the surface. And this is what I mean. I feel like these two work so well together, because this is like clearly playing a consistent thing, but then like and it's easy to hear the notes each time, but this time sometimes you can like barely hear it, like now, and then it just lurches out for a second. So like if you weren't paying that close attention, you might think that like this is the track. You know, you might not even really recognize that melody much until it pops out there. And so I think maybe that's partially why these little pop-ups like give such variety to the song. But okay. Okay, so check this out. We're already at 1:12, and we've basically just had this same loop playing over and over again. But again, just by getting these like little modulations in lead 2, we're able to keep it interesting. The reason why these are brighter green is because it's really opening up. Reason why I made this this different colored green is because I feel like on this part it sounds like for this whole duration DVS1 probably was having the hand on the cutoff filter and just opening it up as it goes. You can hear it kind of just like slowly coming up from under the C. And so that's a little bit different than over here where it just like pops up, but it's not really making this big crescendo. Now we're gonna add some interest, or keep the interest rather, by adding an offbeat. Especially if you have headphones, you'll hear that you hear more than an offbeat. That's because there's probably like a ping pong delay on this situation. I think if we're in mono, it might be, let's see. You might not really hear those extras. Let's see if we do. Let's mono this real quick. Okay, you can hear it. So it's primarily an offbeat, but there is also a little like shuffling hat going on too, but I think this is probably just a simple echo on this offbeat. So that's why I kept it separate, just because, you know, if you have, just grab an 808, put it on the offbeat, add a touch of delay, like your stock Ableton delay, and it'll probably sound like exactly what you're hearing right here. So yeah, I could have created a separate track, but I'm just going to refer to it as the offbeat. Alright, so orange is once we add reverb to the offbeat. And this is another way we're going to add variation. It's a simple thing, but again, this makes this whole track sound a little bit different because we've never heard this track with reverb on the offbeat yet. So now we're getting, you know, new spices. Let's pause for a second. So, if you've watched any of these videos before, you already know what the deal is, especially these techno videos. We've got these pieces to the puzzle, right? Let me get macro for a second. We got kick, we got toms, we got lead 1, lead 2, offbeat, 16th note hats, and clap. We also have offbeat with reverb, which is when it's orange, versus offbeat when it's green. We've got 16th note hats when they're dry. We also got pink 16th note hats when they're wet. We've got a clap. So we have these different elements at the track, and basically what we're going to do in a very broad sense is just use different combinations of all these things I just mentioned throughout the song, so that we're always kind of hearing, not always, but we're very often hearing a palette of sounds that we haven't heard before, which helps keep these individual elements interesting. And slash, it just keeps this track interesting. So you'll notice here, we got the introduction of 16th note hat. We've never had that before. That's interesting. Now we have 16th note hat with a dry offbeat. Never had that. That's interesting. Now we have 16th note hat with a clap happening once in a while. That's interesting. Now we've got 16th note hat with the reverbed offbeat with the creeping open lead 2. Haven't had that before. That's interesting. Now we have these 4 things happening down here with no kick, no toms. That's interesting, etc., etc. That's very much the name of the game on this track. I don't want to talk too much more about that, but just keep that in mind, and we're going to listen for a while. And if something else drops out, I'm going to talk about it, but that's the general concept here that I want to really, emphasize. And so let's just listen, and if something else comes up, I'll bring it up. But keep that in mind. We're just doing different combinations of sounds based off of a super dope loop, and that's essentially this track. Alright, one more thing. It might take me a second here. I don't think there's really much else I want to talk about except for this general idea, which again, if you've watched this channel, you should know this. Very oftentimes in this type of music, we're building tension, we're releasing it, then we're building it again, then we're releasing it, then we're building it again. So here we're kind of at like a little apex here. Then we're going to drop out the kick, come to a cooldown. Then we're going to like have a rebuild up. Then we're going to get to a cooldown again. Now we're starting a new build up, but this time we don't even have lead 2 in here. So it's like a new type of build up because we're building it up differently. Again, check out my other videos if you're finding this really interesting, because this happens all the time. Alright. I'm also inclined to think this is played by hand because, like, see how rough that was? Like maybe DVS1 just quickly like raised up the reverb there real quick, kind of jaggedly. It could have been in the computer too, but I don't know. Alright, y'all, it's basically just going to start cooling off a bit again, then maybe raising. Nothing too crazy. I think you get the point here. If you want the project files, shoot me an email. Again, please check out my Patreon. If you want private lessons, that's something we can do too. That's on Tier 3 Patreon for only $35 a month. You get that easy to download sample pack, which again, you can already download for free, but you have to download like each individual sample, and it takes a while. All these great sounds from Detroit, from Austin, from Toledo, from Ann Arbor. Got some nature sounds, some restaurant sounds, some gym sounds, all sorts of sounds. A lot of ambient stuff. I think I only have actually I have a couple restaurant sounds. It's really nice ambient from a few different cities. I also give you track feedback, so if you want, my opinion on a mix of yours, or if you want me to give you my take on your production or something, you get that. You also get a one-on-one lesson for an hour over Zoom or in person if you're in the Detroit area, and you're vaxxed and stuff like that. I guess we'd have to talk about that. I don't have any Detroit students right now, at least not via Patreon. But yeah, so go ahead and check that out. Hope you like this video. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. Last thing I'll note, the track just ends abruptly. That's interesting. Check this out. Yeah, that's how they end. That's how it ends. So, if you're DJing it, be careful. Alright, hope you're having a good day. Thanks for watching.